Good morning. Welcome to Monday with the Moors. I'm not going to say anything about my wife, like superhero arrival. But my name is Terrence Moore Sr. And
Good morning, I'm Cheryl.
dang. Well, again, Monday morning with the Moors, the partnership podcast. We are excited that you have joined us this morning. And I'm excited. I hope you had a phenomenal, extraordinary weekend. I know I did. I'm excited about it, and I hope that things went very well for you. How about you, my love?
Good morning. I had a good weekend and I love it because I get to see Terrence do his homework, which is so interesting.
Oh, see why you? Why, I don't understand why. Why is that? Why is that interesting?
It's
Like
interesting.
really?
It's interesting because um, I am on the other side of this where I actually am the instructor. I'm a professor. Um, so it's interesting. And my jam, actually, my biggest thing, which I've been on for years, is online learning
Right.
and the flexibility, especially for communities of color, people of color, how we learn best is not with people talking at. That could be really triggering for anybody, actually, just having somebody sit there and talk at you. And how education is just being challenged on so many different levels
Right.
of how we communicate and describe. Like, there's no way you can sit in a chair 6, 7, 8 hours a day and really digest and
Mm-mm.
apply even the expectations we have in K through 12. Whole nother story. You can see my passion. So anyway, it's just interesting. And I told Terrence, all right, now you have these 2 6-week classes because I used to teach these graduate
Switch programs.
MBA programs. So he's taking these 6 weeks MBA programs, right? And so I was like, you need to get started because, you might need to read things a couple of times. And you want to hear me?
Because
they never want to
the new
hear
session starts today. That's
usually my post secondary learners or adult learners, working learners, they tend to log in like a week or two before class. They are on it. Now, so yesterday I finally look at him sitting at his desk
the day before Saturday.
Oh yeah, talk about I had to read some of this stuff twice. Well, come on through here, get that comprehension under
Man.
Right. So anyway, that's a great thing. So
because this is like, I mean, again, even with new material, and it's familiar,
yeah.
but familiarity doesn't mean understanding. And this was a deep dive and stuff. Like,
no,
what?
No.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, brother was kind of lacking. I'm like, okay, yeah, man. that age and that mind, I need more time. Yeah. I definitely need more time.
Right. So you had a great week, a great weekend. My weekends lately too have been in a deep dive of grievance as I go through some professional changes, career changes, and just really taking a deep look at what are my steps for my next. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's I can get really attached to the work. And that's even true. When it's time attached to people, I am constantly doing a deep dive in myself to detach, which is very difficult for me. We all have our points. So, and to how things need to look different for where we are. So that's part of it. I feel like I'm in a better place of a realization of what's going on in the world and how it affects me, the limitations that I've put on myself, which leads us into what we wanted to talk about today. We were talking about this intimate place with God and getting to know yourself, in terms of how you relate and partner with other people, because whatever you bring into in a situation or relationship, right, that's however that forms. And thank you all so much for chiming in on the chat. Your comments, they're just not we appreciate it. So always, if you're looking at the replay or live joining us, make sure and comment, like, subscribe on our YouTube. We're trying to grow our online community here. So
and you're helping,
right? I told Terrence I was looking at a comment. Shout out to Lynn Arts. She's been a friend of mine, a sister from another mother, for years and years and years, predating TJ. So TJ,
That's
our
been a
youngest,
minute.
is about 25 years old. So I've known her longer than that. And just about the how to look at partnerships and our journey of how our unique paths ended up crossing.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to think that when you're relating or in a relationship or with someone else, you automatically go that it's going to be the right time, the right situation. It's going to be, um, roses, kind of sort of say. Well, roses have thorns, so that is appropriate.
That's kind of true.
But I would say, I was telling Terrence as we was preparing for the day that I really thought it was important to bring out this part of our relating and all of the challenges. Just because there are constant challenges and I didn't have to rest in it. I had to accept it. I think that's the word. But you probably
go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like it doesn't mean that if it's rough or there's always a challenge, some people would say years ago, I would buy into if there's always something going on or it's just always something. It's just always something with you. It's just always something with you. That is just how significant my path is. And it's not to do a comparative to anyone else, but the challenges and the uniqueness of the intensity of what I deal with uh, has caused me to be the person and the woman I am today.
And everybody have their own struggle, their own path, their own thing that's consistently seem like it's always something. So whatever you're in, it is part of your making.
Right. It really is. And I wanted to talk about, when I went off to college, I got accepted to my first love, which was Howard University. My parents said no. And I ended up at University of South Carolina. And a lot of my friends, a lot of people, very, very not uncommon. I've had cousins graduate, people have gone there and been successful. I was unsuccessful. And it wasn't because I was dumb. I just don't know. It was just too much for me. It was too much too soon. And I didn't have great money management skills. I just couldn't focus in school. I felt disconnected from my friends, even though they were there. It was probably just because I was so conservatively raised as in my childhood. And I ended up not doing well and ended up first semester I was on probation. Okay, you're a freshman, so go strike it out. But then I was more into shopping, right? I was more into shopping, into partying. And
it didn't get corrected after
parties, I do. Maybe at
the shopping did not get cured after I do. I'm just saying.
No, it didn't. So, but it came into maturity, and that's recent. It's in the recent years of 31
That's
years.
a nice way of putting it.
But I ended up having to come home, and that was really hard for my family to deal with. That hey, they're trying to keep it and not talk about it under wraps. That I was home, and I was working multiple jobs. I ended up the College of Charleston, which I got accepted into, but that I didn't want to go there, and it was close to home. My whole thing was not being home. And just the idea of saying I'm away, And I think when I had to sit out for a semester, I didn't go back. I ended up applying for the College of Charleston, getting accepted. If I didn't go to the College of Charleston, so that's like in Columbia, South Carolina, I would have never met Terrence.
No, Charleston.
If I didn't go to USC
in Columbia.
And if I didn't flunk out, if I didn't fail, because I'll have a hard time saying those words. Now, years ago, maybe the shame, the guilt, but forget that. Now, right? That was a process. I ended up going to the College of Charleston. I would have never, ever crossed, not that I can think of, there would be no reason for our paths to cross. And I grew up in Mount Pleasant. He was from Hollywood. Two
Total opposite sides.
opposite sides that met in the middle. And this is a part of our story that we tell. But I think about with partnering, it was a difficult transition. It was a pivot in my journey that caused me to meet my partner.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a pivot, and that's something to really consider, that you may have to pivot, you might have to turn, you might have to do, a 180. You may, or I don't know, things come full circle to maybe a 360. I'm doing my geometry,
180,
right? 180, but
yeah.
I like the 360 side, the mirror side.
Oh Lord. Okay.
So, but I still say the partnering requires pivoting. And I had to pivot. That was very hard. I was in an unfamiliar school, unfamiliar. I didn't.
Your second unfamiliar major,
right?
Higher ed school,
and trying to figure out who I was and what I wanted to be when I grew up. Like, I wanted to go to law school. Then I thought, I'm great in English. I'll major in English. I tried political science. Until I fell in love with sociology, that I use on every level. And so I had to really just come to realize that if I didn't have a failure, I would not have met Terrence.
And then the even other side, that God is the ultimate chess player. He is the ultimate strategist.
I like that.
Because here I was graduating from high school, and most of my friends my very, very close to clique went to a HBCU, and I wanted to go to Hampton, and that's where I was interested in Howard, but I really wanted to go to Hampton, and I didn't get in. And
I got into Hampton.
Yeah, whatever. Because you were way more brilliant than I was. I was playing probably a little too much in high school, but good enough to graduate. But
graduated.
That's right. So, but out of that, I believe my parents. Someone talked to my parents, and they said, "Hey, why don't you?" There's this program called Spectrum. It lets you start in the summer. So so basically, that puts me ahead of the game. It allows me to get two college courses before the fall starts. So I am there, and I meet this guy who we just immediately clicked, named Fred Grant.
From my neighborhood.
And see, you didn't spoil the whole thing. But anyway, we met, and we just immediately clicked. Families clicked. It was like, everything else. We roomed over the summer, and then it's like, yo, we got a room in the fall. And that's what we did. And out of that friendship and that brotherhood, he and Cheryl were taking the same class.
Yeah.
And they had their system. I think it was music class. I think it was music.
Well, I used to play the piano, classical piano, so classical music. And so I was like, oh, I'll take this. I didn't have many elective choices. So yeah, I took this class. It was so boring on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we kind of
What's the system that you and Fred had?
We had this exchange system where Tuesday, Thursday, one goes Tuesday, the other goes Thursday, and we swap notes. Until the end of the semester, I couldn't find the dude, and ended up calling his apartment all the time looking for my notes for the final.
And she was ended up talking to me.
Oh God! And then I ended up talking to Terrence. He was nice. I wasn't so nice. Was I nice?
No, At first you were nice. Then it got on my nerve. Like, why you always call? I want you to
because I want my notes.
And my thing is, like, I'm going to class every day, and I found out what the system was with them. They taking turns going to class. I'm like, why don't you just go to class? Of course, I can tell my boy that, like, you do what you want. But what you going to
business?
Why don't you just go to class?
Suffering the way you
the one that's calling up our phone trying to get notes from Fred. No. And so I just, after a while, when she started getting irritated, why did she do that? I just started like, I'm gonna start stirring the pot. And that's exactly what I did. Every time she called, he ain't here. Every time she called, why don't you go to school? Why don't you go to class? And you have to worry about this. and after a while, she just got pissed and just showed up at the apartment.
I just showed up. Like, okay, you talking crazy with your little punk self. I did. I thought he was a punk.
Because my voice was way higher.
So anyway, we ended up crossing paths, and yeah, I think he was pretty nasty interaction. And then the next semester, I'm taking this geology course, and it's packed. It's an lecture lab, so it's huge. There are only a couple of empty seats, and so I look at him. I go, "Hey, you look really familiar to me."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Wait a minute!" When I recognized
I already knew
Fred
who she
roommate,
was.
that was it.
I already
was
knew who
out.
she was.
I tried to find another seat. There was no other seat. And then I took a late lab, like really late, last lab of the day, and
I wasn't trying to hear
the
her.
lab. And the guy in the lab was great. Same in the lecture place. He goes, oh, I was like, "What are you doing here?" "I took this lab." So you end up in the lab. You know how you have lab choices. Like, how could we end up in the same geology class, same lab?
And she was trying to run my life. Like, girl, she was on this whole Jesus thing, and
I was
on this.
I was.
Every other female type. I was not. I for a season I was not in a committed relationship. So that's where she kind of met me. So I was like, I don't need Jesus. I just need to remain non-committal. I don't need to be committed to Christ.
So anyway, I ended up having a really rough semester again. And believe it or not, I failed again. So now I'm at 2 colleges, 2 failures. And we ended up having a good friendship, that part.
Yeah.
And got disconnected and reconnected again.
But the quick part of the friendship. And here's the weird thing about our friendship. It was like, she was like I said, the super Jesus, holy roller, that type thing. I didn't want to hear that. But I just was like really drawn and connected to her. Like, and we just talked a lot.
We talked a lot.
I mean, we would talk before the class, after class, or whatever the case is. But it was like, but in my mind, I'm like, you got some issues. I'm tired of hearing about, the Lord said,
you got
Terrence,
issues.
The Lord said, I'm like,
issues.
Girl, like, okay, can we just go to lunch?
Forget you. Or breakfast.
Or can we just go to breakfast?
Right. And they ended up being like my study place too. Like because I stayed at home, like if I had a final exam, once I finally found my major and got myself together. But I think a big thing on that is if I did not end up having failures, I would have not had a friend. And he understood. He was a friend. And I can't keep reiterating that even now, 30 plus years later of friendship, marriage, 31 years of marriage, we were friends.
Absolutely.
That if you don't have a friendship, you can't jump into partnership, because in that friendship,
you can't even be married.
I mean, honestly, because we talked a lot. I feel like in friendship, there's a different fluency, a different flow, a different type of integrity and honesty that comes out. And we are able to have the difficult conversations and have always been able to listen. Let's sometimes sit down and talk. Whenever I get caught up in, okay, this is my husband part, I have to focus on the many levels on which Terrence and I relate.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of that is always starting with the foundation of friendship.
Right.
That's easier said than done, because a true friend sticks closer than a brother. A true friend would lay down their life.
Absolutely.
A true friend would tell you the truth about yourself. When we're most of the time speaking to each other, it's about, I'm telling you about yourself.
And I'm telling you about yourself.
And we're friends. But
and it gets tested.
And it gets tested that you have that type of friendship that's fierce, that's focused, that's reliable, that's a confidant. And I feel like moving into partnership, you need that friendship, because you need that voice, that one that I don't want to hear it, but you're going to tell me anyway. And that brings a different trust.
Right.
It really brings a different trust in your life.
And trust is so big, because a true friend, as she said, does tell you about yourself. Because right now, one of the things we've noticed that people say that, oh, that's my friend. But that's just a person who will support your BS. or will say, "Oh man, that's bad, dude. That's wrong," or "Girl, that's wrong. That he did that to you. She did that to you. Man, that's wrong." And they would hype you up and make you feel better about yourself, but they ain't gonna say, "But look, you did some stupid stuff too. This was not his fault. This was not her fault. This was your dumb behind fault." Or point things out and see. I would strongly say, even before you get into a marriage, you have to have that type of friendship where that is very real, very clear, where that you're not pacifying or you're not people pleasing. I'm not saying anything to make you happy about things. Now, it did come up in the marriage after a while,
right?
But the thing is, and if you don't have that very strong, clear, true, authentic foundation of friendship, even before marriage, it's going to make the marriage difficult. Because what ended up happening that during our marriage, when our marriage was tested and it was like, on the cliff and everything hanging by a shoestring, a thread and everything else, we had the friendship. And the friendship truly saved the marriage.
Oh, that's good.
It saved the marriage. Because after a while, like, I can't, you getting on my doggone nerve way too much. She was saying the same thing about me, and it's like, girl, if we weren't friends, I'd be like, you wanted to leave, I'd have been helping you pack.
And I think we would always say to each other, well, yeah, if we ever decided to get a divorce, we could still live with each other or be neighbors. That's how strong our friendship was.
Yeah, she wanted to be neighbors. I was cool with the friendship. I was cool with that. She wanted to be neighbor. Like, nah, I don't know.
Good morning. No. Good morning, Sheila. I would say, like, I wanted them to be neighbors because I didn't want to trust anybody else to watch out for my house, fix anything that went bad,
And it always got to that point because we had got to a point where that we were friends and we just couldn't live together.
And that happens. You can be married. That's why she wanted. That happens.
That's why she wanted to be the neighbor. And I'm like, no, I don't.
You
I don't
just
roll
can't
like
live
that.
with it. You feel like you can't live with that person, but there's something else there, right? Where there's too much space. There's overlap in space, and there's not enough in person.
Because it'd have been neighbors with benefits.
Get you. Good morning. Good morning to you, Auntie Ree. I love you. I love you too. So I would say I am grateful to God because my path looked so crazy. Like I looked like I was not, and I'm always careful about, now I'm older, I'm careful about using this word success. I look at failures but I look at failures and I can see the fruit. And here's my fruit. So I look at that I had to pivot. And if I didn't pivot, I wouldn't have a beautiful partnership. And now that I would never see this. I would not know that he had to redirect. Like, wow, that's how significant it is.
Right.
I was redirected to a school. It was not my choice, but it was where a lifelong partnership was going to have its grounding.
Yeah.
And you have to look at, this is not my ideal situation. Whenever there's something going on and you have to pivot, right? Any failure, there's like, wow, there's some fruit coming from this. Right. I have something to look forward to. If I were to share that today on this great Monday, that's what I would say, that if you have to pivot, just know that there's some fruit coming out of a failure. And that failure, and then the second failure was me walking into what I loved, what I wanted, or what I was bringing, which was sociology, understanding the medical, only for us to lose disconnection, come back around and work together at the hospital because we didn't see each other on campus. And again, those things that come full circle, and both of us were in difficult spaces, and he then an expected father came through where out of what looked like a failure, stepping out of school, became a beautiful fruit, right? I don't even have any, I gave birth to boys, and now I have a daughter through marriage, right? I have a daughter. And so she's grown, but now she's grown with her own child. But
can't tell her
again, you have to look at what's failing, because we sometimes, I think, focus on what's going right, what's good. That's great, but see hope in that. See hope.
Absolutely.
Because there's some fruit coming out of it. Fruit is coming out of that failure. It just needs to, there's something that hasn't flourished yet. And so, again, the greatest people's greatest successes, learning what to do, not what to do. And what a blessing. I wasn't looking. I was actually contented being single after a while. And all of a sudden, there's another attraction beyond the friendship. And you have to allow that to happen. It can't be hurried.
You can't force it.
Can't force it. And it came out of untimely conditions.
Oh, yeah, that's
things
true.
that were not on the radar that needed then, that just became very radiant.
And when you know God is in control when you don't have control.
That's
good. I mean, because I would have never thought I couldn't even map this relationship out the way it happened. And like I said, rooming with someone who grew up in her neighborhood. They were neighbors. They were in the same neighborhood, who end up having the same class. I end up him being my best friend. All of that created this wonderful, extraordinary friendship that became a marriage that evolved into a partnership. And we lived in the same city, but on two different rural areas on opposite sides. God brings us in the middle. There's no way that we would have ever been able to map that. And I think that's one of the things that's very important as you evolve from a relationship, marriage to partnership, is that you really have to let God do what he does.
Right.
You cannot force anybody. You can't force a situation. You cannot make a situation happen. Things have to happen. Things have to happen organically. It has to happen authentically. It has to have the removal of manipulation or manipulation of any kind of mindset or emotion, psychological. Things have to happen on its own.
That's good.
And allows the truthfulness of your totality of your being really to emerge. Because out of the marriage became a partnership, but so much had to occur within us individually and as a couple that really brought us together in things that, and we'll, again, you've heard us say this, we'll talk about this later, but a lot of it had to do with failures individually and as a couple.
Right.
So much failure occurred within myself that bled into the relationship and vice versa, that had to come up so it could be dealt with, so that this beautiful thing of partnership can emerge out of our marriage.
I don't know why I'm sitting here. What really just dropped in my spirit was the concept that out of problems, there are promises.
Ooh, I like that.
And somebody just probably on the replay or however this is going to be traveling through, as it travels through the virtual world, out of problems, there are problems. Out of problems, there are promises. The promises do come out of problems. And things that look very problematic, at some point, we all settle into the maturity that it has to be dealt with. Dealt with, not dug into. There's a difference in dealing with something versus digging at it. So out of that, realize that there are promises, that they don't always come out of the magic immediately. They're cultivated.
Yeah.
And so you have to do some cultivating, some stepping back, some realization. Truly, there are things that come to an end that have an expiration date.
That's true.
And I could see that even on our path of our friendship, where it expired at a minimum level, and then it just was a rebirth. And you have to look for those rebirth moments.
Sunset to sunrise.
Right. You always look for a sunset and a sunrise in every situation.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all those wonderful things. Let people know, hey, this was quite a bit of partnership podcast. So we're looking forward to seeing you once again next Monday with Monday with the Moors, the partnership podcast. And make sure that you have just declare that this is a day of greatness. Always, every day is a great day.
Every day.
Offer great gratitude to God or whoever you worship. Great day of gratitude. Always offer gratitude. Let's pray. Father, we just thank you for this extraordinary Monday. We thank you for what you have done, what you are doing, and what you will do. We thank you from the failures to success. We thank you for the promises. We thank you that we have grown and matured into who we are, and we can only imagine what we'll become. We ask for your continued guidance. We offer great gratitude on a daily basis, God. We are blessed by you. We are your blessed people. We have been called by you, and purpose is in us, and we will take each day to do our part for the manifestation of purpose in our lives. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. You all have a great day. We out. Peace.